And then finally, in the show for today, I want to talk a little bit about doing Apple repairs and sourcing parts for your Apple and Mac products. Donald wrote in this week to say that he recently resurrected an old 2014 Mac Mini by going out and getting an SSD kit from OWC, which is a great upgrade. We've talked about that, especially for Mac Minis or older iMacs. If you can put an SSD in there, it really can give them a new life, and you can maybe repurpose an old machine. And I think it's a great thing to do rather than having your hardware go to the landfill. Donald noted that the Mac Mini install is pretty tricky, installing the SSD. I did one of these with my wife's 2014 Mac Mini, and it worked great. But yeah, you have to rip that whole thing apart. So you got to really get into all the parts. You have to remove a lot of screws, and a lot of tiny screws at that. So unfortunately, when Donald was doing his upgrade, he lost the little tiny screw that held down the clip of the SATA ribbon cable. And he said, hey, I'm having a hard time finding a replacement. I contacted OWC support, and they weren't really sure where I could get a part. And so he's looking for help from the MacCast community. Hey, where can I get parts? Specifically, really these specific, really tiny computer screws to replace the one that I lost. And I have to say, Donald, the first place that I always turn to outside of OWC, because OWC has some great kits and repair parts and stuff like that. They also have some pretty good instructions. But really, if I'm being honest, probably my number one place that I go to is iFixit at iFixit.com. And I'll have a link to them in the show notes at Maccast.com. You've probably heard me talk about iFixit on the show in the past. They offer amazing repair instructions and how-to guides for just about everything, not just Mac products. They're really into repairability and DIY repairs and things like that. So related to that, they also sell a lot of great tools. I think I've recommended, and actually, if you're looking for a holiday gift for a tech nerd in your life, a iFixit toolkit, and they have a bunch of different variations, is a great thing. They also have cool little screwdrivers and kits and things that might make good stocking stuffers. So if you're looking for gift ideas, definitely check iFixit out as well. But they sell all the tools and parts that you might need for doing your Apple repairs, whether it be iOS or Macs or anything like that. So thing I did when I got your email, Donald, was I went in and I checked out their teardown guide for the 2014 Mac Mini. And in that, I looked at the cable replacement guide to find out what screw that actually was. And it turns out they list the screw as a 2.6 millimeter T6 screw. So I did a little Googling and searching on their site for that and found out that they do offer, and I'll have a link to this in the show notes at Maccast.com, a full 2014 Mac Mini screw set. And I know this is going to include a lot of screws that you don't need. It's $15, so a little expensive just to get one screw, but you'll have additional screws if you ever need to replace those. It is a used kit, so I'm assuming what iFixit does is they, probably buy damaged or old Mac Minis and then just break them apart. Probably old Macs across the board, break them apart and put together full screw sets that you can get for your machine. So I'll link to that in the show notes at Maccast.com so you can get that. But what I don't understand from my research, and this is where I'm hoping the community can help us out, is how you can get just the screws themselves. There's a lot of places online that sell computer screws and computer screw sets. There's a lot on Amazon, and they might have the specific screws that you need, but what's hard to tell is all the different specifications. So you have the sort of head type, right? In this case, a T6 or Torx 6 screw. That's the little kind of star-shaped one, or you also have Phillips head, you have different kinds of screw heads. So I get that part. So in this case, it's a T6. So we know, the kind of head that it needs. We know that it's 2.6 millimeters. I'm assuming that's the length. But then there's also the thread pattern. And it seems like a lot of computer screws fall under what are called M2 for the threads. I can't tell if this one specifically for the Mac Mini is an M2 thread or not. It wasn't listed on the iFixit guide. And with the lengths, it's also a little bit confusing because when I search online, I can see a lot of 3 millimeter screws listed, but this was 2.6 millimeters. So is that close enough? Are they just doing rounding things? So I'm hoping there's a lot of folks who are maybe more involved in the repair community out there that can send in some advice and let us know, hey, how do you find these little tiny screws? How do the specs work out? If you have that information, shoot me an email, send me an audio comment, maccast@gmail.com, and hopefully we can share that on future episodes of the Maccast. But just overall, if you're looking to repair an Apple product, I would say start with iFixit, do some Googling, and you should be able to get what you need. So, Donald, I hope that helps you out, and good luck with the repair of that SATA cable.